Welcome back. So in the last video, we talked about HTTP requests and how we can browse the web with them. You've been using them pretty much your whole life on the internet, maybe without realizing it, maybe you did realize it, whatever. But they're the underlying magic and what makes everything that we see actually happen. And as programmers, we can go a step further and take advantage of third-party APIs, server-side APIs, to get things like information or take actions or bring in functionalities of different applications. And for this module, I'm going to focus on the GitHub API. It's a fairly easy API and one that can be used pretty easily on client-side development without a lot of struggles and hassles. First thing to know about APIs is that they're all different and they all come with documentation. So I'm here at the GitHub API documentation, specifically the REST API. And the term REST will become more important later. We're not going to focus on that right now. You can definitely read about it though. And essentially, GitHub's API gives you access to public information stored in GitHub, so people's repositories, people's accounts that are public. You're not going to get access to private information, of course, but GitHub's an open source thing to make stuff public. And when you're using its API, you will want to follow its documentation. When you use any API, one of the first things you're going to want to do is look at the documentation, because APIs follow general trends, but they don't all function the exact same way, and they each have their own way of authenticating, perhaps, or how you need to make requests, or parameters you need to pass, you name it. So this will hopefully be a gentle intro into that concept. So let's say that we wanted to get information about repositories. We might go down here to the repositories section and click repositories. And you're going to see some stuff. So in terms of reading documentation, it's a little difficult, I'm not going to lie. And when you first get started with APIs, it'll be a little overwhelming. So we're going to see stuff about list organization repositories and create an organization repository, get a repository, delete a repository, update a repository, yada yada yada. You might be thinking, well, how, what on earth am I doing? So let's take a step back actually and first talk about the API itself and its root. So what we want to see is the first thing you really want to figure out when working with an API is its root URL. And after I paused for a second there, I had to dig a little bit, and I know the URL off the top of my head, but I was trying to find a spot in the documentation that mentioned it, and I did find it. The root URL is api.github.com, and so we can just plug that into the browser and see what we get here. So api.github.com gave us something interesting, and so when you go here, you're probably not going to see this in this format. You're probably going to see something more like this, and even probably less neat than this. It'll look like probably like a big blob of text, but hopefully this should look familiar. This is an object, right? It's a specific type of object. It is JSON, JavaScript object notation. There's not much difference between JSON and a regular JavaScript object. The main difference is that JSON is formal, so there are no single quotes. Everything has to be double quotes, and the keys have to be surrounded by double quotes, and any string will be surrounded by double quotes. That's the real main differentiation between a regular object and a JSON object, is that formality, with double quotes being the only way you can make strings, and having to surround the keys with them, even though they're proper one-word things. A normal object, you wouldn't have to have those quotes. So api.github.com is the main URL, and from that main URL we can get the functionality of different things. So there's a whole list of things that we could get access to. I'm going to work with repositories. So we have, let's just take this first example. We want to list an organization's repositories. So it says list repositories for the specified organization. And here on the right side, this part's important, you'll find the endpoint. So git /orgs/ this little curly brace here, and then repos. So if I were to utilize that, we start with the root URL. By default, it's kind of like not there. And if you right here, actually, this is the whole thing. So when this shows a curl request. We're not going to use curl, but I just want to show you that you can see the URL. This full URL, https://api.github.com /orgs/ this is a placeholder /repos. So we take the whole URL, and actually if we look at this, we can actually see, hey, this is the URL path to it. So this root can be helpful because it'll give you a path to where you're trying to go. But if I click that link, you're going to see it doesn't work because that was a placeholder. It was org like that, and that's not a real thing. So we get back a response not found, again in an object. If we want to get an actual organization, the one that I like, let's see, GitHub React org. So yeah, I think React.js is the name of the org. So if we do /React.js, hit enter, now we're going to get some information here. Okay. And we still actually haven't even used this this list organization repositories. We're just kind of going down the path. So orgs, we needed information about a specific org, and we found it, the React.js org, and we get back another object with information. And so the final one that we're trying to look for was orgs React.js repos. So that's this endpoint here. So the documentation says, hey, if we make a request to orgs with a plugged in org and repos, you'll get a response that looks something like this. And this is an example, but if we go ahead and use it in real life and we hit /repos, we will get React.js's repositories. So it's going to be, look what we get back here. It's an array. That's the very outermost thing. An array of objects. So each one of these objects will be information about a repository for React.js. So specifically, this is the React PHP-v8.js repo. And you could see the full URL, the picture, whether it's been forked or not, a lot of URLs to get more information about releases or milestones or all kinds of things. How many times it's been forked, how many issues it has, how many people are watching the repo, and so on and so forth. So going back to the documentation, you can see here an example. Hey, this gives you back an array of objects. And it also will give you some ways that you can work with this repo or this endpoint. And so I think that'll be my next video. We'll see how we can dive even deeper into this documentation to see different information that we want. So yeah, this video is getting a little long. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.